I'm coming to you live from my bathroom. This is my shower curtain. Isn't it gorgeous? Not really. My bathroom's a mess. Back to my channel. I'm Ryan Elise in case you're new. Today I'm going to be showing you how I wash my makeup brushes. My actual video will be filmed in the bathroom, so if you hear any echo, that's why. But yeah, I'm also going to show you how I washed this and almost all of my brushes. You're not going to see me wash all of them because I have well over 30 something, maybe 36. I think 36, something like that. So I have well over about 36 brushes, and I know you don't want to sit there for 20 minutes and watch me watch my brushes. So I picked out a couple of them, the different kinds. Like I definitely showed you how I wash this one because I do it a little different than the rest. Same thing with my big old fluffy brush. And also I showed you how I did some of my highlighting brushes. You know, because they're a little fluffier. And then also I did my foundation and my stipple brush. Please excuse the stipple brush. The top officially come off. I had to tap that on. So yeah, those are some that I've showed you how I did. And if you want to see how I wash my makeup brushes and what I use and my personal recommendations, I suppose, for how to do it, keep watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button right down there. Thank you. I'm actually going to start by showing you what I use. I usually use two things. Which I'm out right now of this, as you can see by the water. I'm going to use a little bit of that on specific ones, but I use the Johnson's baby shampoo. This stuff is great. It doesn't ruin your brushes. I find that it gets it clean, and when you do it right, it works great. Said that already. I'm out of this, as I am, is actually the Equate Sensitive Skin Body Wash. It's the equivalent of the Dove, I think, Sensitive Skin. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, compared to Dove Sensitive Skin Body Wash, it's right there. Right in my face, people. I'm not here. If you hear something in the background, that's Stuart Little. That's my daughter watching TV. So first, I'm also going to show you how I wash my Real Technique sponge, which I get a lot of questions about that one anyway. So yeah, let's jump into the video. I don't know what this was. Let's just get into the video. So I start out with my water being more hot than cold, but not quite hot. It's lukewarm. And I add a little of the baby shampoo into a glass of water. After squeezing out my Real Technique sponge, I let it sit in there, and while I wash the rest of my brushes, let it soak. So first brush I start with is my foundation brush because it is the most used and the most abused. I start with the Equate wash and then put it in my palm and work in circular motions. I do squeeze out the excess dirt from the brush, or residue, whatever way you want to look at it, and make sure not to put it back into the brush because it will, and I'll rinse out the brush. But it was extremely dirty, so I did have to wash it twice and did the exact same thing both times. When you finish washing it, me personally, I make sure that obviously the scrubbing bubbles part is gone, and also that when you run it under the water completely and squeeze it, the water is completely clear. So, and when I dry my brushes, I set up a towel, roll up the edge, and then pretty much put them upside down so the water does not run into the handle. On to brush number 2, ladies and gents. So the second brush I use, as you can tell, was my stippling brush. It was completely destroyed when I picked it up out of the thing, and I had to reattach it. I do the same thing with this one that I did with my foundation brush. I just constantly work in circular motions, getting it throughout the brush, as well as make sure the water's clear before you continue on through it. And again, I hang it upside down, not hang it, or set it upside down so the water does not flow into the handle. So the next brush I washed was my fluffy bronzer brush. It is a little curved, but I wanted to show you this one because it is different. I flatten it out so it gets to the bottom of the bristles. That way it doesn't keep any of the product, because it is a little dense but more fluffy than, say, the flat brush that I use for my actual contour. It works a lot better. And I make sure to kind of squeeze around this a little differently than I do the other ones, and when I'm done with it, when I squeeze it, I don't just leave it, I kind of get it back into shape first. So with this brush, I did the exact same thing that I did with my fluffy bronzer brush. It is the brush I used to set my under eyes. It is a little more dense but still fluffy, so I just repeated the previous steps. I'm not going to go. So this next brush I did do differently. It is my flat contour brush. What I do, instead of putting the soap in my hands, I put it on top of the brush, rub it in, and then put it into my hands. I find that this gets
the brush a lot cleaner because of the density of the brush. It's harder to get down into the bristles. So that is what I did with this particular one. I find that it works a lot better, and you rinse it a little bit more than you would the normal stuff. This brush is a lot like my foundation brush, so I didn't feel the need to explain it. It's the same way I do the other one. I put the soap in my hand, rub it around in circular motions, kind of flatten it out a little bit more because it is a little less dense than my foundation brush, but I still use the same motions and the same technique for this brush. It is what I use for either blush sometimes, or I'll use it to pat powder. So here, this is how I find that I wash some of my smaller brushes. I still do the circular motions, but again, I kind of flatten them out like I would a fluffier brush, but I do tend to use more pressure with the smaller brushes. So this is actually my big, fluffy, what I call my 50s brush. I tend to rinse it out a little bit more when I use it, but it is flatter, and I squeeze it a lot more than the rest of my brushes. I did not want makeup stuck in my sink. That's why you see me rinsing it out more than usual. But instead, because it is just a powder brush, the product does stay in there a little bit more, even though with liquid it does stick. So this next brush is more about the color that's on the brush than the brush itself. It's just a fluffy, um, non-dense brush, but there was black on this, and I wanted to show you how I tend to get darker colors out. I tend to squeeze it a lot more and find that I can rub it a lot harder to get that color out. But the tip of this brush is actually brown anyway, but the color in it was black at the time. And finally, the last thing you're going to watch me wash is my beauty sponge. This is a Real Technique sponge, but I'm sure this technique will work with a beauty blender as well. What I do is, as it's soaking in the cup while I wash the rest of my brushes, I get the excess water out and use it to squeeze out the excess foundation or anything left in there. Then I take some of my baby wash soap and then scrub. I will scrub out some of the soap, and this is a good way to get all those stains off the front. I find that it works the best when you do that. I did not want makeup in my sink staying, so that's why you see me doing that. But I'd get a good scrub, get it throughout the entire sponge, and then I just wash it until it is completely clear. I do this a couple of times because, as you can see, there's a lot of foundation in there. You are you are suggested to actually replace your sponge once a month. But yeah, so this is the end of the video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Sorry, it's the last thing you see. Bye, guys.